For the longest time, the story of Africa wasn't really Africa's story, was it? It was a story written by others, seen through this strange lens of pity or potential, but almost never on its own terms. But what if that story is about to change from the inside out? Well, that's what we're going to get into. What if that path that's been followed for so long, the one of dependence, of always looking outward for answers, what if that's not actually progress? What if it's just a habit? And we all know habits can be broken. And that right there is the crucial question, isn't it? It's that moment of pause, that decision point where the focus shifts from just surviving today to intentionally building a future that's worthy of the generations to come. Okay, so to understand where we're going, we first have to be really honest about where we've been. And the starting point for all of this is a deep psychological shift away from a mindset that has, frankly, held the continent back. This so-called beggar mentality is a paradigm of dependency. It's a reactive outlook, right? One that positions Africa as a recipient of aid rather than the creator of its own destiny. It is the very foundation that has to be dismantled if you want to stand as an equal on the world stage. So here's the big question then. How do you go from asking for a seat at the table to just building your own table? Well, it starts with a new idea, a completely new way of engaging with the world. And that idea has a name, the New Africa Paradigm. Now, this is not just some catchphrase. It represents a fundamental restructuring of Africa's place in the global order. At its core, this paradigm is about moving away from being a junior partner, just a supplier of resources, to becoming a proactive and self-assured global leader. It's about changing the terms of the entire conversation. And this has some very concrete political goals. We're talking about demanding equal partnership, pushing for permanent seats on the UN Security Council, and having a voice at the G7 table. It's a complete shift from being an aid recipient to becoming a true development partner. Of course, political power has to be built on a foundation of economic strength, and that requires a radical reimagining of how wealth is actually generated on the continent. For far too long, wealth has been, as one writer put it, torn out of the bowels of our motherland for the benefit of others. The new model is about owning the whole process, from mining the mineral to polishing the diamond, from growing the cocoa to manufacturing the chocolate. It's about keeping the value and the jobs for young people right here at home. And this is not just a theory. Let's look at this number for a second. $6.5 billion. What does that represent? This is brilliant. It illustrates the point perfectly. Botswana, the world's biggest diamond producer, insisted that De Beers move its trading and sorting operations from London all the way to its capital, Gaborone. The result? A $6.5 billion a year transfer of business directly to its own people. That is what value chain mastery looks like in action. So how do you scale that kind of success? Well, there's a continent-wide strategy. The African Continental Free Trade Area, or AfCFTA, is creating one of the world's largest single markets. This is the engine designed to power that huge structural transformation, to shift the labor force from low productivity agriculture to high productivity industrial and service sectors. But here's the thing, this new century can't be built on old ideas. Africa has a unique opportunity not just to catch up, but to actually jump ahead, becoming a crucial incubator for global innovation. Now, what's really fascinating here is this idea of leapfrogging. Because so much of the continent isn't locked into restrictive, carbon-heavy infrastructure, it can leap directly to green energy at scale. It can master the circular economy, which is a multi-billion dollar opportunity in itself, and create growth that doesn't end up poisoning its own foundation. Beyond the politics and the economics, there's an even deeper shift that's required. To solve African problems, we have to start using African solutions and African ways of thinking. This quote just gets right to the heart of it. For too long, success has been measured by someone else's yardstick. Intellectual decolonization means reclaiming the right to define progress for ourselves in our own terms. A really practical application of this is something called Made in Africa evaluation. It's an approach that uses indigenous knowledge systems, local values and philosophies like Ubuntu, to measure whether a development project is actually working for the people it's meant to serve. So how does this work in practice? Well, it means listening to our griots, the traditional West African storytellers and historians who are basically high monuments of wisdom. It means analyzing African proverbs, which are just packed with insights. And it means using storytelling to put a community's own experience at the absolute center of any evaluation. So when you put all of this together, the political will, the economic strategy, the intellectual independence, it leads to one final profound question. Why? Who are we doing all of this for? And here's the answer. It's a psychological shift to what's called legacy thinking, the mindset of becoming a good ancestor. This means moving beyond the immediate bread and butter issues to build systems that don't just collapse under greed, but instead serve generations of people you will never meet. And the stakes of being good ancestors couldn't be higher. By the year 2100, a staggering 40% of the entire world's population will be African. The decisions being made today about governance, education, and sustainability are literally shaping the world our children's children will inherit. This is the ultimate call to action. It's about the courage to think differently, to build sustainably, and to ground every single decision in a sense of responsibility to the future. It's a shift from just rhetoric to reality. It's a movement built on African solutions for African powers, powered by a buoyant new mindset.